I know, the Mazda Miata is also the best car for D-Class. But I don't want to be boring and just do that one again. So today we are going to build something completely different. What, you ask? And with that, welcome back to HD Racing to Builders Lab, this new video series where we take street cars and make them the most powerful we can for a particular PI class. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps more than you know. We did take a look at E-Class in the last episode, where we built up the Mazda Miata, but also covered a lot of basics. I don't want to repeat everything that I said there, so if you need a refresher on the basics of upgrading and tuning street cars, or want to know my approach, you can take a look at that video. I will link it for you. We're gonna go a little bit faster this time, as we're also moving up one class and try to compete in D-Class. The build I am going for today is going to be quite a bit different from the Miata from the last episode though. Before we get to building, we are once again going to need to answer a couple of questions though. You probably already know the answer to the first one. Which car are we gonna take today? Well, to no one's surprise, it's going to be this 1965 Mini Cooper S. Stock? It sits in E-Class, so we will have plenty of headroom to play with when building it for D-Class, which is quite nice and gives us a lot of freedom. The car is going to look quite a bit different though after we're done with it. But what are we actually going to do? Does it need more power or better handling? Well, driving it stock while leveling it up and incrementally putting in upgrades, it seemed to me that just putting raw power in this little thing would not cut it this time. The car, and specifically its tires, just can't handle that. So we will need to invest in a lot of handling parts as well. In the end, it turned out to be even more of a handling build than I originally intended, but it worked amazingly. Let's first take a look at the lap in the finished build before I show you how it's put together. The track of choice for our rivals lap this time around is the Nürburgring Sprint Circuit. You will be able to see that this is still a front-wheel drive car in build, and since it is so handling focused, it will perform really nicely in the corners. Coming into turn 1 here, you can see I brake really late and just throw the car into the corner, let it hook the apex and get on power really early to get a good launch, and come into the second corner here, where you'll be able to see that I modulate the throttle to basically act as my second steering wheel, which is something that you can do in front-wheel drive cars a lot of the time, because lifting off the throttle oftentimes induces oversteer, while pushing the throttle down will most likely produce understeer. And you can use that by basically using the throttle as a second steering wheel and help the car rotate around a corner by lifting off the throttle a little bit more. And you can see me doing that throughout this lap. And same for this corner, for example. I don't brake for this. I just lift off, get the rotation by just lifting off and getting the oversteer from that. Same with this one. I don't need to brake for those. And that was really something I needed to figure out by driving this car quite a lot. But once you figure that out, it's really nice because it lets you preserve more speed, which is important because since it's a handling build, it doesn't have the power. And for this long straight, power builds will overtake you here. But you'll be able to do this. Just throw the car into corners and just rely on the grip of the tires and, well, the suspension and everything that's working together to make this such a nice handling build. And you can see here once again going into the last turn, preserving a lot of speed and just trying to get as much of that over the finish line. And we will be able to see that I am doing a 144.530 here, which was really nice. I was quite happy with this time. There was definitely room for improvement, but I didn't want to spend hours grinding this, as the result was already quite good. You can see that I managed to get onto the leaderboard on P23, which is once again top 2%. Yes, there are still quite a lot of Miatas faster than me, but those guys are also probably way better drivers. So I think that this build of the Mini can definitely compete in D-Class. Let me show you which parts made that possible. Just as a heads up, you're going to need 8,625 car points to build the car exactly like I did. That means that you will have to level up the car quite a lot as well. It should be around level 41 to have enough CP. So here is the finished build for the Mini, and I'm gonna talk you through every part that I did put in and why. Starting on the right in the conversion tab. And here I didn't put in any engine swap or even aspiration conversion, it just didn't seem worth it to me this time around. What I did put in was the body kit. That not only makes the car wider, which is already nice in terms of handling, but it opens up a lot of options for the tire width, which I'm gonna show you, and that was really the main reason why I did this. So this part goes in, and next we're gonna go to the aero and appearance tab. Here it was once again worth it to put on the best rear wing and front bumper, not only because that makes them adjustable in fine-tuning, but also because of PI. Because as you can see, if I don't have the best rear wing on, we are at 415 PI. If I put it on, it drops to 400, and you can use those 15 PI elsewhere to great effect. For the front bumper, it's not quite the same. This actually did cost a little bit of PI, but it was worth it to me because of the adjustability and just having a little bit more front downforce, which is nice for a front-wheel drive car, obviously. I did also take one of the hood upgrades, just very minor, and that is just because of the weight. It was just a filler part. You can see, by the way, if you don't know, by toggling details, the right window, go to car stats, and you can see here that putting that better hood on will decrease the weight by 1 kilogram in this case, for costing 1 PI. So as I said, just a filler part. You could take something else if you wanted to. Let's head to the drivetrain section next, where we again did install the race transmission. That not only gets us better gears, helps with shift times, but also lets us fine-tune the gears, so this is most of the time a no-brainer for me to put in. Same goes for the differential. I almost always put in the race diff because that lets me adjust that in the fine-tuning, and that is a big part of making a car drive better and be faster. So again, race differential goes in. I didn't take any clutch upgrades. This is again more of a filler part for me, and I didn't have PI left for it. I did take the full race driveline though, and once again that's a filler part. You can see that costs about 1 PI and just drops our weight a little bit, and yeah, it was just to fill out the build as a whole. We can now skip over the wheel section because I didn't adjust anything here and go to the tires, which is a big one for this car. As I said before, putting on the body kit really gives us a lot more options in terms of adjusting tire width here, and it's really helpful for this car. You can see here these tires are so thick, 245s in the front up from 145 as stock, and same for the rear, 245s up from 145s. This really helps with grip. Even though it comes at a PI cost and also added weight, it's worth it to me. But I did not only improve the tire width, but also the overall grip level by changing the tire compound. From stock tires all the way up to race tires, which gives us access to softs, mediums, hards and wets. And we're obviously going to use softs for rivals, and that really improves grip quite a lot. It costs a lot of PI as well, as you can see, but again, for a handling build like this, so worth. And to finish off the amazing handling of this car, we go to the platform and handling section, where you can see I did put in the race brakes this time. They definitely felt worth it this time around. I mean, they cost some PI, you can see, but not much, and they just allow the car to slow down better so you can brake later, which is of course very helpful if you want to put in a fast lap. I also opted to go for chassis reinforcement this time and put in the full roll cage. Even though this makes the car quite a lot heavier, as you can see, and costs us PI, I felt like this was worth it because the car felt more stable going into and out of turns, and well, just for me made the car not as flimsy. But you may be able to experiment with this and just not take it, or maybe not take as much, and then go for some other parts as well. But I opted to go for the roll cage this time. Next, I did put in the full front and rear anti-roll bars once again. For adjustability, as I said in the previous video, I almost always put these in, and it's no different here. For springs and dampeners, I this time was able to put in the race suspension, and I felt like this was really worth it because it again gave me a lot more adjustability in the fine-tuning, as well as just being better overall. And then we come lastly to the weight reduction, where again I did put in the full weight reduction. I mean, this car is already quite light, but making it almost 50 kilograms lighter by just putting this in for 11 PI was definitely worth it to me. And now let's take a look at the engine parts I was able to put in, and we'll start in the fuel and air section. Here I did go for all the parts that both increase my power and reduce the weight, like this exhaust, so full race exhaust, and also full race air filter, that again does the same. And I also did take the intake manifold and throttle body, that also increases power and decreases weight at least a little bit. And in the actual engine section, I did also go for the sport valves and the race pistons and compressions. And that was just to fill out the build as a whole and just reach my PI level of 400. And I did then go for the little parts that I did show you just to fill out the last couple of points of PI. And same goes for this flywheel. This was also just to fill out the last couple of points. And I managed to get to the sport variant here to fill out the build as a whole. So these are all the parts that I decided to put in to this build for the Mini Cooper S. Let's now take a look at the fine-tuning for this car. I'm once again not gonna go into very much detail in the fine-tuning section, but you can pause at any time and take a closer look if you want to. In terms of tire pressures, I just adjusted them a little bit. I think the rear tire pressure was just a little bit too low, so I upped that to 1.7. And in the gearing section, I only adjusted the final drive to be able to use almost every gear. I don't even think I used the 6-1. It's just the car doesn't have enough power for that. But still, the first 5 gears felt very good for at least the Nürburgring. But you can, of course, adjust for other tracks and will make use of the gears a little bit better if you want to. In the alignment section, just some default changes like I always do. Nothing major here. And in terms of anti-roll bars, I just made the front quite a lot stiffer to the max, and I think I didn't even touch the rear anti-roll bar in this case. In terms of springs, I did make these quite a lot softer, but that was mostly to account for the fact that I did lower the ride height quite significantly because it was sitting somewhere in the middle, and I wanted the car to be as low as possible because I felt like that would give me the most speed. Dampening, I don't think I touched, if so, just minor adjustments. And suspension geometry, I think the same. I don't think I did touch this at all. In the aero section, I reduced aero in the front and the rear completely because I didn't want any unnecessary drag on the car because it already isn't very fast since it's a handling build, and I didn't need the aerodynamics for the speeds that we are going at. And lastly, we have the brake settings, which I didn't touch, and the differential, which I just set to the values that I outlined in my tuning guide. And that means for front wheel drive, 100% on acceleration, 0% on deceleration, which just makes it the best, at least in Forza. And that's already everything that I did for the Mini Cooper S. I'm gonna show you the full lap once again from the chase cam perspective, so you get another good look at how the car drives now. You'll be able to see that it is not the fastest in a straight line, and it struggles to reach a good top speed. But it really makes up for that in the corners and handles really nicely overall. And as I said before, I think it is quite competitive, especially on handling focused tracks. If you want to try this build yourself, you can of course just copy what I did in this video, or you can use the build that I also shared on Forza. You can find it under my username HD Racing. We are going to race the Mini in a multiplayer video as well, once there is an opportunity for it, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this and want to see more videos like it, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you want to see. If you haven't seen the building process for the Miata, or how I was able to crush the competition in multiplayer with it, I will link both those videos on screen for you right now. Thanks a lot for watching. I've been HD Racing. See you next time.